Was it scientific curiosity which caused you to interfere with my monopticons?
I wouldn't dream of interfering with your monopticons.
Monopticons indeed. This time we're going to be talking about Fort Doomsday, which is due out on Region 2 DVD on the 15th of September 2008. Before I do talk about it, I just want to thank everyone who's been emailing me of late with ideas for new Tin Dog podcast subjects. If anyone out there wants to submit an idea for me to cover in the Tin Dog podcast, simply send me an email and I'll see what I can do. It's tin-dog@hotmail.co.uk. This was the first Doctor Who story recorded by Peter Davison, and on the DVD one of the extras is raw footage taken from his very first day. Now, as is traditional with the BBC on most series, they don't film the story shown first. They film the story from a mid-series point first, to help people get into character, to get to grips with it, and then they show that halfway through once the audience is established. It's a fairly well-known tradition, and I believe it is a fairly British thing, because in America you end up with pilots, and of course Doctor Who had been running for nigh on 20 years at this point. On board the TARDIS at this point, and let's face it, it's a fairly busy TARDIS at this point, is the Doctor, Nyssa, Tegan, and Adric, the actors of which are all present for the commentary. And more of that later. The basic setup beforehand is that they're all a bit sick of Tegan and they've decided to try and drop her off at home. This is a recurring theme throughout the whole series and is hardly worth going into. Suffice to say that they almost but not quite make it on several occasions.
We've arrived!
Oh, bit ahead of schedule. When was your flight again?
A778, 1730 hours.
February the 28th, 1981. Oh, you'll have time for a cup of tea. It's only 16:15 hours.
Doesn't look much like Heathrow to me.
Last time I was there, they were doing strange things to Terminal 3. Oh, no, you're right. It doesn't.
Well, don't look at me. I set the coordinates as you instructed. 630 in the inner spiral arm of Galaxia Kyklos.
Yeah, but Heathrow's on the M4, not Corfu.
Oh, Adric's just showing off. He means the Milky Way, your galaxy.
Yes, Adric makes a very nice miscalculation and ends up dropping the whole, well, let's use the word team, shall we? The whole team off on board a studio-bound set. Sorry, a spaceship, travelling at almost, but not quite, the speed of light. That's the speed of light in real space-time, rather than using hyperspace. You can kind of tell that I'm recording this on the day when they're trying to switch on the giant particle accelerator in France, or is it Switzerland? Is it France? Is it Switzerland? Is it France? Is it Switzerland? It's both, but alternately, because obviously they're going round and round in circles. I'm drifting. Moving on. Adric apparently gets his maths wrong, which of course, being Adric, he's going to kick off about, because of course he doesn't get his maths wrong. It's the only thing he doesn't get wrong. Why do we hate Adric so much? Perhaps I'll discuss that later as well. On board this spaceship, our team discover reasonably highly complicated equipment. They use little helmets to wander around, and they are spied upon by a large black floating eye.
My monopticons!
Eventually the plot unfolds and we discover that we're on board a spaceship heading for Earth. Apparently they're 4 days away from it, hence the title. Although 4 people away from Doomsday could also work. It has been a little bit open for debate, but it's not that important what the title of the story actually means. So they're 4 days from Earth. They discover that they're on board a spaceship run by an evolved frogman who goes by the name of Monarch. Monarch has 2 companions who go by the rather odd name of Persuasion and Enlightenment. They are the Minister of Persuasion, which, as we all know, would be propaganda, and the Minister of Enlightenment I'm not completely sure what that would be. They both sound very 1984 sort of things. Tegan's character is very well developed in this story. She's the first companion to my knowledge to actively ask if she can stay on board the TARDIS, which is a very nice change from that whole let's do some daring do. Try saying that after a few pints. Adric, of course, wants to investigate, and then there's a lot of chat. These stories, these studio-bound things, have some very nice ideas, but they usually come down to a bit of chat. And this story really suffered from that in my memory, so I was quite pleased to discover how good it really was when I finally got round to seeing it. Some of the characterisation, of course, is a little questionable, but then again it always was. Why the Doctor chooses to hang around with Adric when he's always trying to, well, betray him, even more than Turlo did, is always odd. Adric keeps siding with the enemy, which of course he does in this story as well. As well as the characters on board the ship who are apparently alien, there are also, and this is the point that most fans fixate on, a collection of humans collected from Monarch's earlier visits to Earth. We have a Greek, we have a person described as an Aborigine, we also have Mayans, and we have examples of all of these people as well as the leaders. We also have Bert Kwok representing the Chinese people. Now for some people, Bert Kwok will always be Kato from the Inspector Clouseau films, while for other people he'll be another character from Last of the Summer Wine. Either way, his career is incredibly detailed, and it's nice to see that he gets to appear in Doctor Who, even if he doesn't have exactly a lot to say. All of the human beings have become android replicants of themselves, using a system that I could only describe as highly dubious. Their whole consciousness isn't taken directly from their heads, it's spoken out loud under hypnosis and then recorded onto chip. That does not sound like a duplicate of somebody's personality. That just sounds like a very long, very, very dull podcast. For a moment, I'd just like to talk about some of the companions in the story. I've mentioned Tegan's apparent reticence at wandering out of the TARDIS and partaking in anything other than running away, and Adric's apparent urge to turn the Doctor in and side with the enemy. We're left only with Nyssa. Nyssa has been described by Peter Davison as the perfect companion. Admittedly not from Earth, which for a lot of people makes her an ideal companion. She gets to explain things to the audience because of course she knows things, but we don't. And she also gets to be in peril. Tegan just shouts a lot, and it takes a long time for her character to develop beyond that. Once it does, we're all very, very happy. Adric, well, we've dealt with Earthshock, haven't we? Actually, I've not reviewed that yet. Perhaps I should go back and review some of the already released DVDs. On the commentary, Waterhouse admits that he's not the world's greatest actor, and it's refreshing to hear someone being so honest. And it's the commentary that really makes this disc stand out. Unlike the commentary for Black Orchid, the director is present, and he helps with the sort of technical detail that was missing from many of the other stories. Moments of clarity, questions about characterization, all come out, and the cast are left, like a modern viewer, slightly more impressed with the story than they thought they would be. Of course, the story is of its time. There are some seriously dubious bits of blue screen, but we can let that off, can't we? Small moments like the Doctor being able to survive in a vacuum for 6 minutes, I always found questionable even as a child, but I'm sure we can let that go. The ending of the story, which I won't spoil for you, always puzzled me as to how it could happen if someone happens to not be a robot. I'm just confused, but perhaps someone could email me and tell me exactly how it happens. Small things are wrong with this story by far. The actors and everyone seems to be sort of fixated on, well, modern dance. Everyone's trying to distract each other with dragon dances and the like. Oh, and the dragon dancers seem to be wearing jeans and a t-shirt, which kind of distracts from the idea that they were taken from Earth umpteen thousand years ago. These are all small niggles, and for a studio-bound story this is very good. Well, as an introduction to the Fifth Doctor, it is very well worth seeing. It's not the best Fifth Doctor story, but let's face it, it would have been released some time ago if it already was, but it is by far not the worst. The extras on the disc, as I have said, do make up a very good reason for buying this. However, there isn't a making of episode. What you get is the commentary, which I've already talked about, the studio recording, that's of Peter Davison's first day, Saturday Night at the Mill, where Peter Davison appears, that's on Boxing Day from 1980, just before he took over the role completely. There's also a small bit with Sandra Dickinson, his then wife, the theme music video for those people who love to make their own episodes, the standard photo galleries, Radio Times listing, programme subtitles, and of course those lovely, lovely production notes. Before I go, I just want to talk about a podcast that I've discovered. The Clockwork Cabaret can be downloaded merely by typing Clockwork and Cabaret into any search engine. The episodes can be downloaded from their own website. I believe you can cut and paste the RSS feed into your podcast capture device thing, iTunes or whatever you happen to use, and then you'll be able to listen to absolutely superb 2-hour shows, music and chat of a steampunk nature. Ah yes, lovely, gorgeous, wonderful steampunk. For those of you who don't know, it's the sort of thing if technology had taken a slightly different route. I'm making it sound so much duller than it really is. Either way, I suggest you give this show a bit of a listen. It's extremely good.
This is the Clockwork Cabaret. We are on WCOM LP, Chapel Hill in Carrboro.
We decided that we'd land here in Carrboro, put Port Calpurnia out. We are the Davenport sisters, the darling Davenport sisters, if you will. And we have put together a little radio show here. We call our broadcasting system the Sky Pirate Radio.
Next time I'll be talking about the final 2 parts of Trial of a Time Lord. But just a quick word before I go. Today in the UK on BBC Radio 4, a new Torchwood story, which I believe has the exact same characters and everybody from the original series, including Martha Jones, will be broadcast in the special 2 o'clock afternoon play slot. Here's a trailer.
Big Bang Day on BBC Radio 4.
Today, we could unlock the secrets of dark matter.
One giant leap for science.
What we're about to do could change our understanding of the universe.
One giant leap for science fiction.
Professor Johnson, shut it down! Shut it down now!
On the day that scientists launched the most ambitious science experiment ever undertaken, the cast of BBC TV sci-fi drama Torchwood find themselves at the heart of the action.
And Torchwood is...
Torchwood is here to protect Earth against the threat of alien invasion.
On BBC Radio 4, a one-off special edition, Big Bang Day, Torchwood, coming soon to BBC Radio 4.
I'll review that story very soon. So until then, be seeing you. You have been listening to the Tin Dog Podcast. Doctor Who and its associated shows are all trademark of the BBC. No infringement is intended. Contact us at tin-dog@hotmail.co.uk.
Let him sedate her and await my orders.